Indrasya no virya ani pravocanyane chakara prathamani vajri.
When addressing the Rigveda, most people reduce it to a collection of praise poems. While superficially true, this doesn't do justice to the metaphysical poetry of the rishis, nor the lore embedded within the hymns. The Vedas also lack distinctive art, illustrations, and imagery associated with them. This was the motivation behind starting this Vedic Pantheon Visions series. Before we dive into the deep end, I'd like to welcome you to the channel. My name is Achintya Venkatesh. While I've had a near lifelong interest in Indian history, comparative mythology, and anthropology since my teenage years, my conscious foray into creating art for this Vedic universe was established in 2022 when I launched the Vedic Pantheon Visions artwork series. With 30 distinct pieces now completed, all illustrated by myself, these illustrations form the foundational visual language of my videos. I'd like to think of it as capturing the mythopoetic spirit of the Rigveda with a visceral, heavy metal flair. For that reason, I ask that you don't just treat this video as background podcast audio, but turn your screens on and watch the Vedic illustrations unfold. Hit subscribe and let's commence this cerebral yagna. We have established that Indra is a far more complex deity in the Vedic corpus than just a mere god of storms and rains, based on his etymology and our previous narrations of his exploits on this channel so far. We of course elaborated on his origins in our first part of this Indra 101 series. However, let's qualify all this even further. The epithets and alternative names of Indra reveal a multidimensional deity that can't be reduced to ill-informed truisms like being a mere storm god. Let's go one by one and be as exhaustive as possible. We will also attempt to classify these epithets into clusters based on thematic similarity. So let's jump right in to the first cluster, the warrior, striker hero, Indra as the kinetic force of agency and rescuer. First epithet, Vritrahan. Perhaps Indra's most iconic epithet, associated with the slaying of Vritra, the serpent of obstruction, inertia, and anti-fertility. We have covered this cosmogenic act in its own video alongside its deep subtext, so please check that out as well. Indra, as Vritrahan, is a breaker of obstructions. He is the liberator of the 7 streams, yes, the Sapta Sindhu rivers, but also analogous to our 7 sensory organs: 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and 1 mouth. There is a further symbolism concerning the number 7, where the 7 rishis or sages in your consciousness are discerned or differentiated by this slaying of Vritra, the dragon of withholding. This is the Maya in the Indra sense. Ma means to measure, fashion, forge, construct, or build. In the Vedic sense, Maya is that form-building power of consciousness. Indra is the god of said Maya. Maya is an active, necessary force that forges, rather than a passive delusion, forgery, or illusion that it is often understood as. Puramdara or Purandara, destroyer of forts. The epithet Purandara, derived from Puram or fort, and Dara, breaking, destroying, or cleaving, is primarily attributed to Indra and occasionally Agni. While linked to the conquest of the Bharata king Devodasa and overcoming the adversary Shambhara's 100 forts, interpreting this as a purely historical Bronze Age military feat is far too literalist. Yes, there is certainly tangible history in this, but beyond the literal shattering of stone enclosures, this title carries a profound allegory. Indra, as the personification of the thought principle, destroys the fortresses of ignorance, the rigid, defensive walls of the egoic mind that obstructs the light of the Satyam Tad Suryam, the sun-like illuminating truth. By breaking these mental strongholds, Purandara liberates the consciousness from the Dasyu or Dasa forces of darkness and inertia, much like he frees the waters from the mountain that Vritra withholds. Thus, his fort breaking is both a psychological breakthrough into spiritual clarity, as well as aiding the Bharatas in expanding their territory and gaining riches over possible Proto-Iranian tribes. Vrishabha, bull-like, vigorous and virile. The zoomorphic metaphor of the Vrishabha, the roaring fertile bull, is practically the default poetic metaphor for archetypal, cosmic, masculine power in the Rigveda. if a deity wields authority, commands and shapes the cosmos, or even spills, let's call it generative fluid, they are addressed as a virile bull. The bull cult is integral to the Indo-Aryans and Vedic peoples and the Indo-European world at large. The bull, and not the horse, is the most important animal of the Vedic peoples, especially in the earliest layers of the Rigvedic mandalas. This is telling as far as chronological importance, from a bull-centric to a slowly horse-centric society. The last verse of the iconic Rigveda 1.32 Vritrahan hymn ends with describing Indra as the Vajrabahu, the large-armed wielder of the Vajra, who became the sovereign of all that is movable or immovable, of hornless and horned cattle, as he abides as the king of all. Maitrayani Samhita 1.10 is explicit about the bull being the symbol of Indra. Rishabham Avyanti Indram va etam nivhyante. They call upon the bull. Indeed, they invoke Indra. Rigveda 5.36 also has a double meaning, pun-filled poem. Here, Risha is bull-like and also denotes to shower, as in showerer of benefits, rain and generosity. It is indeed the preferred allegory for most devas in the Vedas, in line with their bull-like creative, generative powers, including Dyaus, Agni, the Maruts, Parjanya and more. This bull cult of the Vedas deserves its own deep dive, so we will explore that separately. This bull comparison continues into the Itihasa epics, where Rama and Lakshmana and even the Pandavas, who are the heroes of the Ramayana and Mahabharata, are often called bulls among men. Indra is described as Vrishayamano, meaning he is exhibiting the bull force. The next epithet is also animal related and zoomorphic in nature. Mesha, ram or male goat-like. In the Jaimaniya Brahmana 2.79 and Rigveda 1.51, Indra manifests as a zoomorphic avatara, the Mesham or ram of Medhatiti Kanva Rishi, to consume the Soma and validate the cattle of illumination or spiritual insight and the literal cattle wealth sought by the sacrificer. This is indeed parallel to the cosmic virility metaphor of the bull. Again, I seek to explore this in depth in two specific future videos concerning the Vedic bull cult as well as the Ahalya episode, because both converge on the specific avatar of Indra. Veera, the heroic. This term should be familiar to any Indo-Aryan speaking native folks, where the word Veer is a first name as well as a noun for hero. The iconic Rigveda 1.32, the Vritrahan Suktam, is its most archetypal example. It proclaims, Indrasya no virya nipravo chamyani chakara pratamani vajri. I will now proclaim the heroic deeds, Viryani, of Indra, which the wielder of the luminous Vajra first accomplished. Chakra, the mighty and capable. It is derived from the root shak, meaning to be able or to have power. Indra's wife, Shachi's name, is also etymologically connected to this, being an archaic form of Shakti or strength. It is also a preferred epithet of Indra in the Ramayana and Mahabharata, second perhaps to Puramdara. Chakratanaya or son of Chakra is a common descriptor for Arjuna and even Vali. Buddhist texts also routinely call Indra Chakra or Shakha in Pali. Rigveda 1.10.6 declares, we long for his friendship, for wealth and for his heroic might. May he, Chakra, the capable, be able, Shakhad, to bestow riches upon us. I cited this verse because it perfectly captures the linguistic play of the Vedic seers. They invoke Indra as Chakra explicitly alongside the verb Shakhad, may he be able, binding his identity directly to the fulfillment of prayer. Vajra Bahu, the mighty Vajra armed. The Vajra is often compared to a sun-like thunderbolt. Another related epithet is Vajri, the one possessing a Vajra. Vajrahasta is yet another related epithet, the Vajra or thunderbolt-handed. Vajra Dakshinam, he whose right hand is the sun-like thunderbolt Vajra. Haryashva, lord of the bay steeds. The bay steeds here represent the galloping pranic life force embodied by the imagery of horses in the Rishi poets' minds. Derived from the root word ash, to reach, master or fill rapidly, and ashwa is any swift, self-propelling creature or force in the Rigvedic poems. Indra yokes two golden horses who are also described as having peacock-feathered manes. Rigveda 8.1 says, "May our two peacock-tailed, Mayurashepya, white-backed horses yoked to your golden chariot bring you to drink of the sweet, praiseworthy libation." The red stallions in Rigveda 1.6 are described as Shona, meaning fiery or crimson red, and Drishnu, bold. When his power of Maya goes to work, his horses are described as Haraya Shata Dasha, 10 times 100, 1,000 horses yoked at once. Thorvan. This can be understood as an active participle or a descriptive epithet applied to Indra, though it's not one of his static names like Vritrahan or Maghavan. Derived from the root word Thurv, meaning to overcome, overpower, or cross safely. Thurvan directly translates to overcoming, victorious, or he who subdues. Rigveda 1.100 says, "With the Rudras around him like suns," that is, Sa Sonubhir na Rudrebehi. The skillful one, Ribhava, connected to the artisan gods Ribhus as well, crushes his enemies in battle, together with his companions, that is, Sanilebihi, meaning fellowship. He wins, that is Thorvan, immortal fame. May Indra of the Maruthas be our aid and protection. This additionally also reinforces how the Rudras, as the name itself implies, are an uncontrolled, more boisterous and manic form of the benevolent Maruts, and how Indra might as well be their father, like Rudra is explicitly named to be so. This, again, strengthens the viewpoint expressed in my Indra-Rudra comparative analysis, showing how they are two extensions of the same deific in the Veda. Tarhuna, one of the chief gods of the Hittites, Anatolian Indo-European speakers, has the same root etymology as Thorvan. Shatakratu, one of 100-fold will. Rigveda 1.4.8 by Rishi Madhuchandra's Vaishwamitra is a great example of the usage of this epithet. Let's go word by word. Ashyapitva, having drunk this Soma. Shatakratu, O Shatakratu, possessor of 100-fold will. Ghana Vritranam, Abhavaha, you became the smiter or crusher of Vritras. Pravaha, you aided, protected Vajesu in contests, struggles, prizes, and battles. Vajinam, the vigorous one, the competitor, the prize seeker, the champion. Amitakratu, the infinite-willed, is another related epithet. Similarly related is Shatamurtihi, he of unbounded will, as Rishi Kutsa Angirasa calls to Indra in Rigveda 1.102. Shachivant or Shachivas, possessor of effective power. In Rigveda 1.62, the form is Sachivas, the vocative singular of Sachivant, that is possessing Shachi. Shachi is power or effective energy, while Vant means to possess. You can again see how the word Shachi is an archaic form of the word Shakti, and how Indra's feminine counterpart is also a prototype for Shakti. The next one may surprise you. Vaikunta, the rescuer. Across Rigveda 10.47, 48 and 49, these hymns are attributed to an Indra Vaikunta. Here, Indra himself speaks about himself, an Atmastuti, declaring his own supremacy and role as the refuge for the distressed. In the Rigveda, the title Vaikunta belongs exclusively to Indra, the original Vaikunta, long before the name was localized into Vaishnava theology. According to the Brihadevata, Indra took this form, born of the lady Vikunta, a daughter of Prajapati, the creator god. She desired a son like Indra, and Vaikunta is born specifically to annihilate existential threats like the Daityas and the Danavas. These Vaikunta Suktas are uniquely characterized as an Atmastuti or self-praise, as they were authored by an ecstatic Indra himself after being brought back to his senses by the seer Saptagu. Indra broke into a series of hymns starting with Aham Bhuvam to proclaim his own supreme sovereignty and deeds. Now we've covered a lot of the heroic epithets, so let's move on to cluster 2, where Indra is an all-seeing, all-pervading deity. Sahasraksha, the thousand-eyed, is one of the most significant titles for Indra, serving as a visual metaphor for his status as the all-pervading singularity and the supreme observer of Rita or cosmic law. He is indeed the all-seeing mind. As the personification of illumination, Indra possesses 1,000 eyes of consciousness that pierce through the darkness of ignorance. Indra is indeed the watcher of truth. Indra is called Sahasraksha before the supposed curse of Rishi Gautama in the Ramayana, by the way, revealing a clear contradiction in the cause of the 1,000 eyes and a very possible interpolation. Sahasraksha symbolizes omnipresence. In the hymn to the Purusha in Mandala 10, the Purusha Suktam, you will see the Purusha being described as having 1,000 heads, symbolizing immense knowledge, as well as being all-seeing, Sahasraksha, as well as having 1,000 limbs, having immense power. The fact that Purusha and Indra are called Sahasraksha is a happy coincidence, synchronicity, or something deeper? Some food for thought. Who is yoked with 1,000? This is related to Indra's kinetic will and his lordship over mental energy, as well as his association as a lord of horses, Haryashva, which we went over previously. Purohota, the infinitely invoked, the universally present voice. While Purohita is translated simply as he who is called by many, Puru of course meaning many, vast or multidimensional, Huta comes from the root word to call or invoke. Therefore, Indra is the all-responder. Vishvavara, the universal encompasser or the all-sheltering, derived from Vishwa meaning all or the universe and Vra to encompass, cover or choose. Rigveda 1.30.10 says, "We pray to you, O Vishvavara, the all-encompasser, O Puruhata, much invoked friend. Bring abundance to those who sing your praise." We've now officially crossed over into his abundance and generosity related epithets. So let's go on to cluster 3, the giver or patron, the Magha cluster as I like to call it. Maghavan, the bounteous one, the foremost patron and giver. Magha denotes a gift, bounty or wealth, while one denotes possession. In Rigveda 3.30, Indra's Maghavan is a generous benefactor, but also a heroic war leader who wins wealth through battle and distributes it to his followers fairly. He is described as the foremost champion in the contest for prizes, Vajasatau, the fierce destroyer of Vritras, Ganantam Vritrani, and the conqueror of riches, Samjitam Dhananam. Rigveda 3.53 reinforces this. Rupam Rupam Magava Bobaviti Mayaha Krinvanas Tanmam Pari Swam. Magavan becomes the form after form, fashioning manifestations around his own body through his mayas. This verse is crucial because it links his generosity to his ability to manifest in any form needed by the devotee. Indra is the example of the unhoarder, hence his epithet Magavan, ever generous and bountiful. Indra is described as a leader who does not keep the spoils of war for himself, providing a model for Vedic followers. Rigveda 10.117, the Bhikshu Sukta, is the most direct Vedic condemnation of hoarding. He who eats alone, eats sin alone. So let's move on to a related epithet. Dataram, the bestower. As Dataram, the bestower, he acts as the generous patron of the ritual, transforming the seeker's internal offerings into 1,000-fold wealth of spiritual insight. Rigveda 4.31 links the two. For indeed they call you Magavan, O Satchipate, Lord of Satchi or power, or giver, Dataram, shining forth brilliantly. On the topic of generosity, we also know that Indra is a generous distributor of the Hindu Soma drops, the drops of inspiration. So let's address the next set of epithets related to Soma. We have touched upon the metaphysics of Soma in detail in our Soma mystery video. So I will restrict myself purely to Soma related epithets and not any of the core lore. Somappa, the Soma drinker. His definitive title as the consumer of the juice of enlightenment. Indra is also called the Eka Somappa, the sole drinker of the wine of life. Somappatamam is an extension of this, being the most excessive, absolute quaffer of the pressed stocks above all other deities. Sutapa, drinker of the pressed juice. Indra is called Sutapa, Sute Some Sutapaha, the Soma drinker, who is empowered in the very act of Soma being pressed. It is associated with the request to to draw near to the sacred utterances Brahmani of the chanter Vagat. Rigveda 1.87 says, "The belly of Indra, which quaffs the Soma juice abundantly, swells like the ocean and is ever moist like the ample fluids of the palate." Sushipra, this is one of Indra's most iconic titles, appearing throughout the Rigveda to signify his radiant look. It translates to well-cheeked or handsome-jawed. Harikesha and Hiranyashmashru, golden-haired and golden-bearded, the luminous solar yagna fire-like beard that absorbs the Indu Soma drops. This golden elixir of life, being wedged into Indra's beard as drops about to rain, also symbolizes his fertility and flow-inducing role as a lord of Ritha or cosmic order. We must yet again emphasize that color in the Vedas is allegorical and anthropomorphic traits are embedded within a metaphysical yagna fire context, as we have addressed previously on the channel. Samarya in Rigveda 5.33, Samaryash Chiketa indicates that Indra is Chiketa, or mindful of, or shows favor to the person seeking sustenance. Why am I highlighting this unassuming epithet? Interestingly enough, according to cuneiform records from the Sumerian Ur-3 period, approximately 2037 to 2029 BC, the name Samar, often transliterated as summer, is indeed attested as one of the very few known personal names of individuals explicitly identified as Meluhans, that is, Harappans. Sadaspati describes Indra's centrality to the yagna, venerated as he without whom the sacrifice of the wise person is not possible. Rigveda 1.170 by the famous sage Agastya Maitra Varuni also has some interesting ones. "You are Lord of riches, O Vasupati, ruler of treasures. You are the firmest support of your friends, O Mitrapati." Soma has both a ritual association as well as being associated with the ecstasy of life and inspiration. It is therefore natural we now zoom in to the artistic epithets. Soma is inspiration, and inspiration is derived from an ecstatic, creative impulse of sorts. So, as an artist and illustrator, and someone who's a bit of a music nerd, these Indra epithets are especially special to me. Girvana, lover of song. To set some context, the words in the Rigveda to denote speech are Gih and Vak. From the word Gi, therefore, arises the epithet Girvanaha. The etymology of Girvana, according to Yaska, is Gibhirvananiyaha iti Girvanaha, that is, one who deserves to be praised by words or language, and broadly, sound and song. It is hypothesized that the earliest name for Sanskrit is Girvana Bhasha. Perhaps this can be translated as the language of praise songs. Therefore, Indra is the lover of song. He is the primary recipient of acoustic nourishment of human songs, Gih, and prayer, Vak, alongside the fluid fuel of Soma. He is literally a lover of hymns, because human metrics functionally power his cosmic joy. It is also why Vak is associated with him as a proverbial consort or wife if you read between the lines. Rigveda 8.97 says, Girvanaha, lover of hymns, delighting in songs, Upatva Sasrajamahe, we send forth towards you, we direct towards you. Kaman Magha, our great desires, aspirations, Udevayanta Uddabhi, as men going with waters, a compressed simile that likely evokes people splashing or pouring water. The next epithet is Nritu, the dancer. A battle epithet and an artistic epithet at the same time. Indra's dance is the rhythmic stomping of battle. Rigveda 1.130, composed by Rishi Paruchepo Devodasi, calls him so. Note the name of the Rishi, where he seems to be a descendant of Bharata king Devodasa. In any case, he declares Indra shattered 90 fortresses for Puru's descendant Devodasa, the great giver of offerings. O heroic dancer with the Vajra, you shattered them for the sacrificer. Nrito Vajrena Dashushe Nrito. For Devodasa, the fierce Indra cast Shambhara down from the mountain, bestowing mighty treasures through his power. He granted every kind of wealth through his strength. Rigveda 8.24 reinforces, O Indra, O Nrito, Your power is indeed irresistible. Your bounty to the worshipper is undiminished. Finally, Rishi Kritsamada Shaunaka also says in Rigveda 2.22, that heroic deed of yours, assumably the Vrittahan episode, O Indra, O Nrito, the dancer, was the first ancient act worthy of proclamation in heaven. Shayanacharya also comments, Nritu is the inspirer of men, the dancer, or who causes to dance, that is, the agitator, exciter, from Indra's faculty of internal impulse in all beings. After all, he is the force of inspiration in men. Etymologically, both Nritu and Nataraja, an epithet of Lord Shiva as a cosmic dancer, emerged from the dhatu or verbal root Nrit, which means to dance, to step rhythmically. Nritu is archaic, while Nat is the Prakritized or Middle Indo-Aryan development of this older Vedic root Nrit. Narteshwara, a related epithet, stems from Nirta, the same linguistic root as Nata, compounded with Ishwara to mean Lord. This concept artwork presents a historically informed reconstruction of the Mahabharata, the climatic rite of the Gavamayana Soma sacrifice, synthesizing imagery from both the Rigveda as well as descriptions from the Brahmanas and Shrauta Sutras. At its center dances Indra as Nritu, the ecstatic deity celebrated in the Vedic hymns as a cosmic dancer. Surrounding him are Soma priests, Samavedic chanters, the resonant Bhumi Dhundubhi or earth drum made of oxen hide, ritual women carrying kumbhas or water pots upon their heads as they circle in rhythmic procession. There are also martial attendants, together evoking an ancient Vedic festival signifying the renewal of cosmic order. The next epithet is Karudayaha, patron of poets. Rigveda 6.21 calls Indra Karudayaha, meaning poet, singer or bard or hymn composer, and Daya is connected with support, aid, fostering and sustaining. The hymn says, "Hear then, O Indra, hero and patron of poets, the new song of one who strives after Brahman. For from ancient days you were the companions of the fathers, ever well invoked in the seeking of sacred aims. Indra is indeed the patron of all creative acts." So clearly, poetry is a big theme with Vedic Indra. In this episode, we covered Indra as a striker hero, a kinetic force, the all-seeing god, the foremost generous patron, and a benevolent god of giving. We also explored his intimate relationship with Soma, as well as his artistic epithets. To most of the world, even this is more nuanced than simply the storm god people believe him to be. But in the archaic reality of the Rig, the seers hid a deeper, far more staggering secret. What if the ultimate warrior isn't just the recipient of the yagna fire sacrifice, but also the ultimate priest and the hidden monad of the entire universe? We have established Indra as the vivifying god of the cosmos. Next time, we meet the esoteric sovereign. Hail Indra.